Hello there. I'm gonna make kind of a smaller video. I don't know how big this video is gonna be, but it doesn't matter. You're someone, I'm someone else. And today we're gonna listen to another controversial opinion that I have. Another controversial opinion. Today I'm gonna talk about the transgender community or trans. I don't know what to call them. Slash binary community. I don't know if basically people who want to either remove parts or they want to compete in sports. I'm going to talk about all of that today. I'm going to try my best to talk about it in this video before I go into work today. So, how do I feel about the transgender community? I feel that the transgender community, we should try our best to accept them. They've something mentally there. However, we shouldn't accept them. We shouldn't be so pro-trans. We should be, are you sure you want this surgery? Obviously, if they're going to say yes over and over again, they constantly to consent with it. And there's almost no other impeding factor that caused it, which I don't know if there is or not. Then I would say, okay, you can go through the transgender surgery, the surgery to change your parts out. I don't know what else to say. I mean, whatever, right? But when it comes to sports, for instance, right? Men's sports, women's sports, and stuff like that. I think there's a reason why sports are segregated. Is because the top 600 men can easily beat the best woman, I think, in most sports. If you look at the top 600 sprinters in track and field, I think she's at 600th in first place. If you look at all the men. She's only a split second behind all the men, but there's still 600 men that she has to beat. They were lined up. All the 600 men would almost beat her by a split second. So it's just it's no contests. Men are just naturally slightly more stronger in some sports. Just like track and field when they sprint. Although when it comes to mile running, you'll see that they're 30 seconds faster. It's ridiculous. But when it comes to ultra marathon running, women actually have a slight more advantage because their bodies are smaller. So in that case, there's a lot of women, especially there's a group of Japanese women that are very good at running, run 24-hour marathons, and they're about as fast as any big man. There's a book actually that I read about it. It's pretty cool. Anyway, as besides the point, right? I think with transgenderism, should we have bathrooms that are non-binary or non-gender? Oh, okay, I'm okay with that. But I think that women should have their own safe spaces? Absolutely. I think that, or at least I do think, anyway, they should. Because women, for whatever reason, they still feel like they're being either oppressed or they're being limited in some way. And if we give them space to themselves and they feel like there's not going to be any creepy stalkers in the restrooms, I think that's a good thing. I think privacy is a good thing. The Fourth Amendment's a good thing in our Constitution. And I think we should try our best to apply that to anybody in life. The gays, we should not be controlling the bedrooms of the nation. I just don't want to control the bedrooms of the nation. So dictatorship is somebody who's I want to control your bedroom. I'm going to control who you have relations with. Oh, okay. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with I can't make jokes today because I'm kind of tired, to be honest with you, but I'm trying my best to make jokes. But yeah, I'm not going to control the bedrooms of the nations. If I was a dictator of life, I'd be no. That doesn't sound like much fun to me, or fun for the people who have to live under my orders anyway. But that's besides the point, right? Because I know somebody very close to me who is either trans or non-binary. I don't really care care, but I don't care enough to really, I don't want them to go through the surgery. If there's a way I could convince them not to go through the surgery, I would, but I just don't want to hurt their feelings, so I'm not going to say anything. I'll call them what they want to be called, but it's okay. I just don't, my opinion doesn't mean anything my opinion means a lot to them, but I'm so different from them ideologically and, environment-wise. The way I grew up was a little bit different than this person, my sibling, or whoever, my closest person to me, that it's so different. The environment that I grew up in is so different than their environment. Um, Now, again, does it mean that I don't hate anybody. I don't. If you do something that only hurts yourself, I'm like, okay. I just feel bad because someone close to me that's gonna hurt themselves if they go through this. And like, there's so many disadvantages with the surgery. Number one, if you get rid of your peen, right? I don't know how else to say this, right? If you get rid of your peen, you got to deal with a lot of fungal bacteria, a lot of infectious diseases, and you get rid of that stuff. So it's just like, there's so many disadvantages to getting a surgery or to changing your identity. And let's say it's a phase, right? Or let's say, here's a big one I always think about. Parents, right? So parents consent to the surgery for their kid to get gender reassignment surgery. Absolutely not, in my opinion, right? In my opinion, you should wait till 18, then they can get the transition surgery. Because let's say that kid regrets it. Let's say they're an adult and they regret it later down in life. They're like, why did you do that to me? Now because they were under 18, they need your consent to do the surgery. Now they can blame you for it. But if you wait till they're 18, they can't really say anything. You didn't do anything to them. Unless you convinced them heavily at 18 to do the surgery, which I don't think any parent would want unless they're crazy. Unless, there's crazy liberal parents that do it. Or I wouldn't say they're liberal, because liberal would mean you would want the kid to make their own choice, not to convince them to hurt themselves. But there are some parents that do that for whatever reason. Yeah. I just think that I love my little hat with my presidential seal. I just think that parents should try their best to convince their kids not to get the surgery under 18. But if that's the only thing that's going to keep their kid alive, then I guess they do have to go through it. I don't know, right? If the kid is so distraught and that medicine won't work, maybe it is a good idea. But I mean, again, I don't know. This is this thing where I just don't know. I shouldn't talk about things I don't know, but I wanted to talk about it because it's so personal to me, because I know people who go. My cousin, a bunch of people I know who are like trans or non-binary. I don't really know what to call them. I don't really care too much. I think that if our society is going to promote this, we should try our best to make it as healthy as possible. I feel like going too pro into it or too anti into it is bad. You don't oppress them, but you also don't convince them to do the surgery. You should do pros and cons of the surgery. Because, they were so pro surgery that now you have to make an alternate list, or, a thing like why we shouldn't do it. But obviously, pretty sure they have it in their head that they're smart enough to know. Some of them, anyway, are very smart enough to know that the surgery might hurt them. The surgery to get their peen removed, or to get their hole removed or reformed into a peen. I don't really understand. I don't understand transgenderism that much. But again, I guess they claim, right, that they're born in a different body, and they want to transition, or they want to be non-gendered, like one of the people I know. Want to be non-gender but still want the surgery. Non-binary, which, okay, I guess if you're intersex it makes sense, but like all of nature has gender, including the intersex community. I mean, they can't for whatever reason, intersex people can't breed, but everybody else can. So intersex people are, I don't know if you would consider it's not a genetic deformity because they exist, but it is definitely a genetic thing where they're just not going to be able to have kids. I don't know what you would call it. It's a genetic adaptation, maybe? A mutation? I don't know if it's a mutation necessarily. It's just an extra X or Y chromosome. I forgot which ones. And I think there's an O chromosome in there too, surprisingly. I think intersex people are the only ones with O chromosomes in their sex chromosomes. I could be wrong on that. You guys can check. I forgot what the chromosome's called, but intersex people are very interesting. There's like 4 different types of intersex people. There's one of them that had super high amounts of testosterone. He had no idea he was intersex until much later in his life. He kept going to jail because he kept fist fighting people. And scientists finally realized, he has high amounts of testosterone. He has high amounts of masculine energy in his brain. because he was intersex, and that chromosome produces that chemical to cause him to be very violent. The problem is he can't have any kids, obviously, for many reasons, because, again, his chromosomes cannot support kids. And if they did, I'm pretty sure those kids would probably die immediately from birth defects. I could be wrong. Again, I don't know. Again, he probably has a uterus and a peen, which, whatever. Okay. I make some weird. This is a terrible video. But basically, I feel like because of the intersex community, it's caused, and the fact that they're becoming more and more vocal. Well, I don't know if intersex people are that vocal. To be honest with you, I don't think intersex people really care they're intersex. But because of the intersex community, it gets, gender doesn't really, male and female is just a social construct, see? And so, because they look at intersex people, I think it gives a moral justification for transgenderism. And I do think that transgenderism should do whatever they want. I'm a libertarian. I don't really care what you do to your body. I don't want to control the bedrooms of the nation. I don't want to control the hospitals of the nation. I don't think the hospitals should be financed by the state. I think they should all be privately ran. And the community should fund the hospitals, not the government. That's the difference between capitalism and socialism. Is something's funded by the government or something's funded by the people. And the people don't use force to fund things. They voluntarily give up their time, their labor to fund it. If you say, I want this thing for free, you have to force somebody else to give it to you. Like, that's just the thing. Oh, I want food for free. I believe food's a human right. Oh, okay, I'm going to enslave the farmer then, because I'm not willing to voluntarily give up something to the farmer. Like, that's the thing about socialism. I think in the socialist and the transgender community, I've noticed, especially on TikTok and all these social media apps, Twitter, TikTok, all the liberal, I think all apps are pretty liberal, in terms of new ideals, progressive ideals, I should say, or prog. I call them the progs because sometimes progressives, progs, I like to insult the progs a little bit, so I call them progs. Or, we call the proletariat the proles, or whatever, right? You insult them by having the little language bits, and it's great, because you get that same thing from 1984 when you read the book. Anyway, because the transgender community and the socialist community are, for some reason, intertwined, they think of themselves as a collective, not an individualistic group. They don't. They think of them more of a group, like they're more of like a hive mind or like a group think. And that's something that scares me as an individualistic libertarian who believes that you should use you should use voluntary action to fund things, not forced by government. It scares me, the fact that our most progressive people are also our most government, wants government running things. They want, we want more school funding from the state. We need more things funded from the state. I don't want that. I want schools to be more privatized. I want our courts to be even, I don't know if courts should be privatized, but pretty much everything else should be privatized. You know what I mean? There's a tool manufacturing company that certifies tools. They have not had a single bad complaint for the last 70 years, and they're privatized. The drug company, however, the FDA, who are not privatized, they're run by government, but they are a company, in my opinion. If you're a government agency, you're a company. Let's just label you the evil, greedy company as you are. They've had so many complaints, and there's no accountability to the FDA, and they've killed 90,000 people by not having a drug in the market that was safe in Europe, that saved thousands of European lives. And for 3 years, we didn't certify the drug, and these people are going to die if we didn't get the drug, and they didn't get the drug, and they died. We have 90,000 deaths because of this, a stupid company that's government ran. If it was privatized, and there was so much complaints, and they get profits and losses, and the economic efficiency would finally, kick their butts or kick their asses, right? Then they would understand that socialism doesn't work. I don't understand these people that think, this one that certifies tools safety has had not a single complaint. They've done a very good job for the last 70 years, or they've had very little complaints anyway. The FDA is a complete mess. You see complaints after complaints after complaints. You're like, how's the safety company that's privately ran, for profit, doing better than a government agency that's tax funded, that uses force to get its funding? See, that's the problem, is things that require force have no accountability. And I'm afraid that these transgender socialists are what's going to destroy the United States. Now, in some ways, I mean, they're not a very big community, but because you can sympathize with them, because I do feel bad for the transgender community because of their mental state, or not their mental state, but I mean the fact that they mentally think they're a man in a woman's body, or a woman in a man's body, or whatever. Honestly, I feel worse for I don't know if I feel worse for, I feel like I feel worse for a man and a woman, or woman in a man's body, or whatever, right? Or non-binary, or whatever, I don't know, right? We'll just go with a simple thing like, okay, let's say it's a man that's going to transition into a woman. I feel bad for that person, right? But that doesn't mean I should go along with using force to fund things like the FDA over that, forgot the private, whatever, tool safety company, right? So that's the thing. Like, I just think that these people, they just don't think about some of the consequences, or they're very young. And I feel like the transgender community is pretty young. There might be some older transgender people, and they've made up their minds, and I think that's good. I think age comes wisdom. But like people like my cousin and people like that, it just scares me that so many people, so many young people, and I think it's becoming higher and higher than it should be. I think it is being slightly promoted in schools, or at least so much accepted in schools that it's kind of unnecessary. And I think it's going to backfire tremendously in the next 10 years when all these people have gotten surgery, or all these people are starting to, and it hasn't changed a thing. People get the surgery, guess what? They have the same depression rates as people who haven't gotten the surgery. It doesn't affect the mental state. You're still in somebody else's body, even if you're still in the body that you were born with, even if you don't like it. It's hard to accept reality for some of these people, or I don't know if it's reality necessary, or it's just maybe they're just never going to be psychologically satisfied. Maybe they're just afraid of not being psychologically satisfied. I'm okay with that. Like, I accept the fact that I'll never be psychologically satisfied in my life. I put that. I'm like a British person. You know how like British people says, oh, things could be not as bad as I thought they would be. That's sort of my mindset. That's why I'm always happy, because, you know, things could always get worse. I could get deported to North Korea tomorrow. I mean, that's not going to happen, but, you know, I always look at the silver lining. Oh, at least that's not happening to me. At least I'm not being tortured in North Korean prison. But these transgender people are like, oh, I want to be maximum amount of what is it? Psychologically the best I can ever be at all times, or it's most of the time. And they're not going to get their psychological need from the surgery. They're just not. It's proven that suicide rates are still almost as high, or even the same, after they get the surgery. Surgery does not improve the mental health of these transgender people, and so we must talk about that the straight community should talk about it, the gay community should talk about it. They should talk about it to these trans people, because I can't get it as a libertarian guy. I cannot get across to these transgender people. It does not affect the mental health to get the surgery. So, and your psychological needs will not be met with the surgery. I don't know what will. I don't know if it will be sex. I don't know if it will be money. I don't know what it will be to get these people psychologically vested in their mental environment, in their physical environment, in their biological environment. I don't know what to do to get them vested in that environment, to get them thinking more realistically and less psychologically distorted. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the transgender community. I don't hate people just because of the way they think or what they do. As long as they're not being violent towards someone, I don't hate them, right? If you start doxing people, or you start being violent, is when I have an issue with you. Or when you start driving in front of me, like I was walking in the street, I was walking a little quickly, trying to make sure I didn't get hit by a car. I was next to the highway on a gas station. The guy almost hit me. I'm like, you idiot. Like, you're not supposed to go 50 miles in the freaking gas station. As he was going 50 miles, he almost hit me. I saw his face. He did not care. I could tell he just didn't care one bit. And that's somebody I hate. But other people who are safe, or safe to everybody but themselves, like, you know, as long if they're only posing risk to themselves, I'm okay with that. For me, my opinion, I think, you know, if you have too much safety, then you have no freedom. So it's a trade-off. Everything's a trade-off in life. And so, or most things are trade-offs. Sometimes there's a clear solution, but 90% of the time, that's why I'm not a huge Thomas Sowell fan, but 90% of the time, things are trade-offs. They're not actually solutions. So anyway, you're someone, I'm someone else, talking about the transgender community. Goodbye.